We get live right now, man. It's going down. Excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
Hello and welcome to Dear Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast presented by us, the staff of Brewhoo, presented by me, Riley Feldman, riding solo once again for Game 3 reactions, instant reaction to the Bucks 118-121 overtime loss to the Indiana Pacers. This is coming about half an hour after the game ended, had to stop, eat. The adrenaline was so high that I had just pacing around the house. Had to pace a little bit before I came on here to give my reaction to the game. So let's just jump right in. First initial takeaway: proud, but also disappointed. So the Bucks give up 39 points in the first quarter and score just 22 for themselves. Looks like it's going to be an absolute slaughter. It's going to be a massacre. That's what the first quarter tells you. The Bucks defense hung strong for the first 5 minutes, and then the Pacers kind of just started making everything. We were having a lot of struggles getting good looks on the we being the Bucks. Struggles on the other ends, kind of after the midway point of the first quarter. Looks like it's going to be an absolute massacre. And yet they come back. I believe the final tally over the last three quarters was 89-72 in the Bucks' favor. They just scrapped. I mean, part of it, I think, if you were to go back and watch the film, part of it is the Pacers through the second and third quarter coasted a little bit. Their three-point shooting was not great tonight, I believe. Let's check. 13-49 from three for 26.5%. They were not great for most of this game. That first quarter was a big explosion, and after that, either between being lackadaisical or, I think at the end, especially getting really tight, they wanted to give this game away in the end. So credit to the Bucks for scrapping all the way back. But if you're at home and you watched all of that and you come away feeling a little disappointed that they weren't able to win, you are completely, that's a totally fine feeling to have, because I'm disappointed. When you get that close, when you're right there, every game matters. There's no such thing as a real true moral victory in the playoffs. The Bucks go down 2-1 now. This was going to be the game to steal it. The Pacers wanted to give it away, and they just couldn't get there. So how did it happen? Starts with Khris Middleton. A 42 points, 16 of 29 performance from Middleton, 10 rebounds and 5 assists to go with it. He was the magic man late. He hit a game-tying shot in both the fourth quarter and in overtime to give the Bucks a chance, and he got a final shot up at the very end of overtime to try and tie it one last time. And just he ran out of magic at the wrong time. But without Middleton taking the shots in the third and fourth quarter in particular, this is no game. They get sort of close, but they never get over that 10 to 7 point hump that they were struggling to cross until the end of the third and into the fourth quarter. So Khris Middleton's the starting point. Hats off to him. He should get all the roses for having carried the team. And then we'll get to everybody else. So Damian Lillard, okay. 6 of 20 from the floor, 28 points though. He gets 12 free throws up, 8 assists, 3 steals. The trouble for Dame was, again, about midway through the first quarter, he goes up for a layup. And as he's kind of looking up, following it to see if it drops, he lands a little awkwardly on his left ankle and knee. Looks like he's rolls the ankle, and then I don't know if the knee kind of also buckles as he goes along. Goes down, grabbing his knee, play stops, he leaves, excuse me, goes to the locker room, comes back, plays pretty much the rest of the game, 44 minutes, almost 45 minutes of play for him. So he actually cuts out, almost the entire game, sans overtime and everything, but it was clear by the end of the game that he just didn't have it in him anymore. He couldn't really move at all. Clearly, they were just using him as a decoy as best as they could to get Middleton some shots up. It worked, but you could just tell he didn't really have much in him anymore. And we did find out after the game that it seems like it's his left Achilles that's bothering him again. They'll probably end up giving it a scan, seeing what the deal is. If he can't go on Sunday for game 4, obviously difficult situation becomes even harder. But Dame gutted it out, scored a couple of super clutch 3-pointers in the third and fourth quarter and the main of their comeback. So another decent performance from him. You were kind of hoping, okay, here comes Dame's chance to be like, put his stamp for real on this game, Dame time, et cetera, et cetera. He was just too banged up. He wasn't going to be able to do it. So more unfortunate injury news on top of everything else the Bucks are dealing with. And then it drops off. No, it doesn't drop off. Let's stay positive first before we really start diving in. So the AJs, Andre Jackson Jr. and AJ Green, both, let's see here, respectively, AJJ plays 17 minutes, AJ Green plays 14 minutes. They're the only two guys not named Khris Middleton and Damian Lillard to finish the game with a positive plus minus. AJ Green with plus 10, Andre Jackson Jr. with plus 7. So why were they on the court? It's because Jay Crowder's unplayable, and so is Malik Beasley. We'll get to those guys in a second, but from the second quarter onward, Andre Jackson Jr. was the exact spark plug off the bench that the lineup needed. He had an awesome putback off of a missed shot. He had an awesome block where he seemed like he leapt like 3-4 feet in the air to spike the block and get the turnover on the Pacers because it's such a strange block coming off of his hand. He did a great, I thought, key thing, and this was kind of key earlier when the Bucks played the Pacers. AJJ gets the assignment to cover Tyrese Halliburton, and he is the only guy on the roster who can keep up with Halliburton laterally. So Patrick Beverley does his very best to really jam that action up at the point of attack when there's a pick and roll. But if the pick and roll is happening far out enough, let's say like a couple of feet beyond the 3-point line, Pat Bev is going to have a tough time maintaining pressure no matter what. Like we highlighted this after game 2. I had a piece on Thursday that kind of ran through some of the tactical shifts the Bucks could think of doing to maybe, make their task a little bit easier. One of them was try to make Halliburton beat you. I was imagining it was going to be just staying home, trying to invite him into the paint and praying Brooke and Pat Bev had enough to be able to contest and make a miss a bunch. Patrick Beverley. Tyrese Halliburton does not play super well tonight. He's 8 of 22 from the floor, 1 of 12 from 3. Clearly not that guy from there. But credit where credit's due. 18 points, 16 assists. But, for the most part, I thought Andre Jackson Jr. did a really good job covering him, maintaining contact, maintaining pressure, making sure there wasn't anything all that easy. Unfortunately, we'll talk about the overtime here. You kind of wonder, it's one of those sliding door moments. Does Andre Jackson Jr. being out there end of the fourth into overtime instead of Bobby, for example, does that make the difference? Do we have enough gas to be able to fight for some of those rebounds? That's the question. But I just want to give the young guys a shout out. And I just want to note, in addition to the Jay Crowder and Malik Beasley situation, this is why not running young guys at the end of the season is so frustrating, right? Not because anybody knew in our heart of hearts that these guys were going to be able to perform the way they did, but the team's back is up against the wall. We had a sense, we've been talking about it on this podcast, that Malik and Jay were in the rotation of veterans. They were like prime candidates for they're not going to have it. And if they don't have it, and if other guys don't have it, if Giannis is unavailable, you're going to have to play some of the young guys. And so we spend the entire back half of the season. AJ Green gets a little bit of run, so this is not new for him, 14 minutes for him. So that's not unusual. But you have to go to Andre Jackson Jr., who is a rookie and who has like a ton of athleticism. I think everybody admires portions of his game, but now he's getting press ganged into the lineup, and you have to hope he can hang in there with next to no experience up until that point for months on end. And so he does a great job tonight. The trouble will be in game 4. Let's say AJJ is out there again. Does he have the magic? Does he have the touch to keep it going 2 games in a row? We don't know. He hasn't had time with these lineups. And so he got run early in the season when the game was, or the seasons and the games didn't matter as much, quote unquote. And then he didn't late in the season. And now he's being called off the bench to bail the team out. And it's a little frustrating that this happens. the way that it does. But I guess better late than never, right? Jay Crowder came on. He played for 2 minutes and he sucked. He deserved to essentially get benched right away. I believe it was a 7-point game at some point when he was on the floor. And then it was an immediate 6-point swing the other way between his being a hole, not really doing a great job on defense, closing out or rotating to anybody. And then he claimed a wide open three, or not. I don't think it was wide open. It was a contested three, but it was a corner three that he should have made. That could have been a nice swing point. He gets benched immediately, rightfully so. Malik Beasley not very far behind. He went out there. This is funny. Plays about 7 minutes, minus 11 in those 7 minutes. He gets up 2 threes. Again, clearly he just doesn't have the size to be able to keep up with the wings and the guards that the Pacers are able to use. So that is 2 members of your veteran rotation who are next to unplayable. Not a good situation. And it's amazing that the team was in it at all, given the fact that those guys were here. We were expecting them to play, and they haven't, and they're not good. Let's run through the rest of the guys. The 2 big men, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. What do you want to say? Bobby, 17 points, 18 rebounds. Can hardly believe that, can't you, folks? Brook Lopez, 14 points, 4 rebounds. Brook, the better of the 2 offensive players, 7 to 12 from the floor, had some 7 to 10 from inside the arc, and he anchored the team in the second and third quarter off pick and roll actions and just driving himself and scoring in the paint, which many people have asked for. I was a little iffy about that because if he's under the paint or under the basket, doesn't make it, trying to rebuild the defense on the other end is going to be very tough, but there scores a lot of crucial baskets. Bobby was not good. You would look at the stats, say, okay, 7 to 15 from the floor. It's not like he shot you out of the game. 1 of 3 from 3, hit a couple of free throws, 3 turnovers, a lot of them kind of dumb, like uncontested. Nobody forced him to. They were just kind of like brain errors, like he just went into neutral. And that fourth quarter and overtime, I don't know if he was exhausted. If he was, he should have come out of the game. I don't know if he was just kind of mentally defeated at that point, but there is a stretch in overtime with the game in the balance. I believe it's 115 or 116 all. And the Pacers have literally 6 shots at the basket and they get 5 offensive rebounds. Why are Brook and Bobby out there if that's going to happen? And it's bewildering to watch while it's happening because it's a comedy of errors. It does not help that it was the starting lineup back out there, and the starting lineup is all old dudes. Who in this lineup besides Patrick Beverley is going to scrap for loose balls? Apparently nobody. Bobby does the tip out thing all the time. Brook is not primarily a guy who is trying to rebound a lot himself, which we all kind of understand and makes sense when Giannis is on the floor. But if Giannis is not on the floor, that's trouble. And it was just bad box out after bad box out, fundamental stuff. Nobody wanted to get to one of the rebounds, strap as much as they want. Extremely frustrating to watch, an extremely disappointing way for it to end, for them to get that far and just to come up short because of effort. Again, maybe they were exhausted. If they were exhausted, Doc Rivers needed to pull one of them for Andre Jackson Jr. again, who gets in at the very end of the game. Unfortunately, I can't remember if it wasn't clear if it was him or Pat Bev who was called for the foul on Tyrese Halliburton, who converts the and one, and that's essentially all she wrote. But frustrating. There's not much else to say. When it comes to rebounding, it falls to the big men, and the big men were not able to rebound when the game was in the balance, and that is very disappointing. Who else? The Pats. Patrick Beverley did a decent job hounding Halliburton. Pat Connaughton, it was fine. He was on the floor for 13 minutes. He didn't make a shot, had 2 rebounds and 2 assists. He was fine. It's whatever. So what can we say about taking this forward for the Bucks? I think the key things are this. 1, the switch that Doc Rivers made in this game was no longer having Brook Lopez cover Pascal Siakam. It was instead Bobby Portis and Khris Middleton who did that. I thought against all things, I mean, Bobby was not great defensively, but a couple of times he had to stand Pascal up, and he did so. So credit to him for that. And Khris Middleton did the same thing. I also wrote in that article on Thursday that I thought Khris Middleton was going to have to be the size equalizer, which sucks for him because then you have to really kind of give it on both ends of the floor. But I thought he did a pretty good job. Pascal Siakam, let's go check his numbers here real quick. 7 to 17 from the floor, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. So it's not horrible from him, but not the same performance that we had in game 2 in particular. A lot more return to form of game 1. And I think the Bucks defense switching over and saying, okay, we're going to have somebody a little quicker on Pascal. I think that paid off. The other thing as well, what's really tough is the Bucks clearly had the Pacers on the ropes. The third quarter and fourth quarter, there were so many possessions where not a single Pacer wanted to be the guy taking the shot. And when you have a team in that space in front of their home crowd where they just blew a next to 20-point lead over the course of 3 quarters, and they are all of a sudden in a dogfight against a team that I'm sure after the first quarter they were convinced they were about to boat race. They wanted to give it away, and now that opportunity is lost. And I don't know if the Bucks are going to have enough in the tank for game 4. This was the opportunity to get a game on the road, and we let it slip, which is a big letdown. Now, I think it really depends on what Lillard's health is. If his Achilles is banged up and it's a serious concern, I don't know if it's that really tough call. Do you try and get Lillard back out there to see if he can get game 4? Do you sit him and see if him and Giannis come back for game 5? Can Giannis play at all? He was ruled as out this morning, and we haven't heard much about him progressing rapidly from a sitting spot to a sprint. He's been shooting and moving around in practice. That's all we know. Nothing about live practice, nothing about taking part in drills. So we don't even know where Giannis is at. Khris was getting banged up tonight. It's just a really tough inflection point. If the Bucks go up 2-1, then game 4 is kind of a wash no matter what the outcome is. Either you sneak another one and all of a sudden you're in commanding position, or they even it up and you've bought Giannis and company some time. Unfortunately, that has not come to pass. So very curious what the Bucks end up doing. Very curious to see what the health situation is. They have 2 days. They have until Sunday to get right and see what happens from there. It's Sunday in Indianapolis. We are looking to have probably, we'll see on the timing, one more instant reaction podcast. And then the plan is to hopefully get Kyle and Adam back on here on Monday night to do a state of the series podcast. Hopefully at that point, we'll have a pretty clear idea. If it's 2-2, that's one thing. If it's 3-1, okay, that's obviously a totally different situation. We'll have a better idea of Giannis's health, Dame's health, et cetera, et cetera. But super exciting game. Cannot be lost. It was an adrenalizing game. Up, out your feet. Can't believe they come all the way back. And a little bit of a letdown to not have gotten it over the line at the very end. But they fought, and for a team that looked like it was about to get slaughtered, to fight at all was something to be credited. So Bucks go down 118-121. I'm going to wrap it up there. We'll be back on Sunday. And as usual, folks, follow everything over on Brew Hoop. Pre-game, post-game, during game, rapid, extended analysis of the series. We do have Jim Paschke, who's going to be on the playback broadcast this Sunday with Van and some other characters from the Brew Hoop staff. So that is playback.tv/Brew Hoop, I'm pretty sure. You'll see the link in the game preview on brewhoop.com. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching if you're on YouTube. And we'll be back on Sunday. We'll talk to you very soon.